Hey guys, sorry. After I shot the video, I realized that my little makeshift tripod I had right here, that I had left part of it in the camera view, so that's what that is on the left-hand side. What this is actually, these are a collection of coasters that have scenes from the Iliad and the Odyssey on them. I found it at Goodwill a while back. See, there's Achilles dragging Hector's body. So happy Halloween, everyone. I figured I'd make a Halloween video talking about spooky books, and I kind of wish I had worn a costume, but I don't really have a costume. I just have these socks. I have a ghost on them and it says I'm just here for the booze, and I'm not even wearing them. Maybe I'll put them on. So I figured I'd do a video about spooky books and my top 5 spooky books. I can't really speak on what the spookiest books of all time are. I don't know, maybe Dracula or something, which I tried to read when I was a teenager, but I actually didn't get all the way through it. I might have to go back and try it. My books are, the ones that I'm picking are both fiction and nonfiction. I figure I'll start with a favorite of mine. There's a book called Over the Edge, Death in Grand Canyon, and it basically chronicles all the known fatalities, gripping accounts of all known fatal mishaps and the most famous of the world's 7 natural wonders. Actually, this is a library copy, but I got my original edition, or my original copy of it on my way, or actually I think we were in Grand Canyon. I was with my dad and some grad students, and I think I saw it at a visitor center or a bookstore or something like that, and I got a copy of it. And of course that was back before we had smartphones, so there was basically not a lot to do in the car, and I think the only other book that I remember having in the car was The Two Towers, and which I lent someone else, and he kind of read that as well. And then we also had this book, so it's sort of split into different categories, like accidents, environmental deaths and things like that. And it's really an eerie book, and I think it has a lot of good value for sort of teaching you things not to do. Now my next one is another book I'm really fond of. It's called Women Who Kill, and it's a nonfiction account of a bunch of different women who either killed people or were serial killers, people like Elizabeth Bathory and Lizzie Borden, and it's just a really interesting book. This is another library copy because I own all these books. This is a library copy because I actually own all of these books, but a lot of them are in storage. So for the video and also to kind of look at the books around Halloween, I decided to get library copies. Now, this is another famous one, and it's a favorite of mine, is Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury, who of course I think is really good at spooky writing. He's kind of famous as being a sort of fantasy writer, I guess, but he writes a lot of kind of spooky stuff as well. And this is a really good book. If you haven't picked it up, you should check it out. Now, my next one, this is actually a nonfiction book. It's a book called The Dead Travel Fast. And what it basically is it's a story, it's a nonfiction story about the author, who he does a couple things. The book explores the sort of origin myths of vampires, but he also attempts to watch every single vampire movie ever made, which at the time that he wrote this was something like, I don't know, I want to say like 600 or 800 movies. And so it's actually kind of a comedy, sort of, but it's also spooky. It reminds me a lot of Chuck Klosterman's writing, actually, in terms of nonfiction. So last but not least is a favorite of mine, which is The House of the Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Now, I actually have several copies of these. This was the copy that I read, and I've come across a few interesting other editions over the years that I really like, and I keep collecting them because they're so nice. I have this really old one, which is, let's see who made this one. Well, it belonged to somebody named Barbara Jones at one point. And it came with it's from the Heritage Club. So it came with a sort of newsletter that I think actually talks about the process of the printing of this book. And it has these sort of pictures on it. I think there are even some pictures in here. I might be wrong though. Oh, it says The House of the Seven Gables, a romance. That's kind of a stretch, I guess. I think the Heritage Club used to print different books and send them out to people as a sort of subscription service or a club service or something. This one was printed, it says, the special contents of this edition are copyrighted 1935 is what it looks like. I don't think the Heritage Club is around anymore, but I feel like I've come across more than one publication by them over the years. Now, actually a really interesting story about the House of the Seven Gables. I actually went to visit it a few years ago, and it was during one of the worst winters. I think it was the worst winter in the sort of Boston area, in about 100 years. And we were just, there was snow everywhere. And the thing that was interesting though is we went to visit the house and we couldn't get in because during the course of the night, the pipes had burst and had showered the place with water. And when we went there, the docents and people were, it looked like they were in the process of taking pictures and things out of their frames and then attempting to dry it. So I never actually got to go inside the house. I just got to kind of look at it on the outside and take photographs and things. So I'll have to go back. Actually, right around in that same neighborhood, kind of up the street, is also the office where I think Hawthorne worked. I forget what it is. It's like a tax or some kind of accounting office or something. I have photographs of that as well. So anyways, you should check out all these books. They're all pretty great, I think. And have a happy Halloween.